This is Plant-Based Briefing, Flavor Savers, How to Freeze Fresh Herbs, Broth, and More by Margaret Chappell at forksoverknives.com. And I'm Marian Erickson. This is the curated content plant-based podcast where I narrate a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living with permission in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. And I'm pleased to have permission from Forks Over Knives to share their content. So now let's get to today's Plant-Based Briefing. Flavor Savers, How to Freeze Fresh Herbs, Broth, and More by Margaret Chappell at forksoverknives.com. Ever started a stir-fry only to realize you don't have any fresh ginger? Or mixed up a last-minute salsa only to find you're out of limes? Never again when you keep a store of essential flavor enhancers like ginger, lime juice, fresh herbs, and more in your freezer. The following guide tells you everything you need to know to freeze flavorful recipe ingredients, from the equipment you need to how to measure, pack, and store each item so that it tastes as fresh as it did the day you froze it. What you'll need. You most likely already have all the great gear you'll need: a rimmed sheet pan for fruits, vegetables, and thick purees, parchment paper to keep frozen items from sticking to the sheet pan, 1-ounce ice cube trays for freezing liquids and fresh herbs, freezer-friendly storage such as reusable bags and containers with tight-fitting lids, and painter's tape for easy removal and a permanent marker for labeling and dating the containers. The best foods and aromatics to freeze. Those little recipe extras are easy to freeze and keep for months, plus they can be stored in large or small quantities depending on what you have on hand. Fresh herbs. Parsley, cilantro, basil, and other herbs that come in big bunches will last only a few days in the fridge, but can be kept at peak flavor for months when they're chopped and stored in ice cube trays in the freezer. Simply fill each ice cube compartment with 1 tablespoon fresh herbs, then add just enough water for them to freeze into a cube. No need to fill the tray all the way up to the top with water. Freeze until solid, then transfer the herb cubes to resealable bags or containers. If you freeze herbs on a regular basis, consider investing in a dedicated set of ice cube trays. Ice cube trays can absorb flavors over time. By using a separate set, you avoid the risk of parsley, basil, or cilantro-flavored ice water. Freezer storage, up to 6 months. Citrus zest. When a recipe calls for citrus zest but not the juice, it's great to have a supply that's ready to use. Grate zest from oranges, lemons, and limes before peeling or juicing them. Freeze in small quantities, 1 to 2 tablespoons, in freezer containers or resealable bags. The zest can be added directly to recipes just like fresh. Thawed zests will keep 3 to 5 days in the fridge and can be used to add zing to baked goods, stews, and salad dressings. Freezer storage, up to 3 months. Citrus juice. The most convenient way to save fresh lemon, lime, and orange juice is to freeze it in ice cube trays. Transfer the cubes to plastic bags once frozen, then simply help yourself to what you need when you need it. Standard ice cubes measure 1 ounce or 2 tablespoons in volume. And don't forget grapefruit juice. It can be subbed in for another citrus to give recipes a surprising sweet tart element. Freezer storage, up to 6 months. Whole lemons and limes. When lemons and limes go on sale or are at peak season, pick up some extra and throw them in the freezer whole. The juicy fruits retain their color, texture, and flavor, plus the cold temperatures make them even easier to juice. This is an especially good trick for short-season Meyer lemons and hard-to-find citrus varieties like kaffir limes. Freezer storage, 3 to 6 months. Fruit sweeteners. Got leftover applesauce, date paste, or fruit puree from a baking recipe? Extend its storage time by freezing it. Thick purees such as date paste and applesauce can be dolloped by the tablespoon onto parchment-lined sheet pans, frozen, and stored in ready-to-use quantities. Thinner, more liquid fruit purees should be measured into resealable bags or freezer containers. Keep portions under 1 cup, so you only have to thaw what you need. Freezer storage, 6 months to 1 year. Onions, leeks, and shallots. All the members of the onion family freeze well raw. Simply chop or slice them as desired, then measure 1 or 2 cup portions into freezer bags or containers. 1 cup is equivalent to 1 small onion or leek. Because there's no need to thaw the frozen veggies before using, write the amount on the container so you know how much is in each. Freezer storage, 6 months to 1 year. Garlic. Frozen peeled garlic cloves thaw in no time for use in recipes. To prepare for cold storage, spread whole peeled garlic cloves on parchment-lined baking sheet and freeze until firm. Transfer to a resealable freezer bag or airtight container for storage. Freezer storage, 3 to 6 months. Fresh ginger. Place a whole fresh ginger root in the freezer and you'll always have it on hand when you need it. Plus, freezing the ginger makes it easier to grate or mince on a fine grater because the cold helps break down the fibers in the root. Once you've grated the amount you need, simply return the root to the freezer for future use. Freezer storage, 3 to 6 months. Jalapenos and other chilies. Fresh chilies may lose their firm crunch in the freezer, but they retain all their fiery heat. Freeze whole fresh jalapeno, serrano, habanero, and other chilies on a parchment-lined sheet pan until firm. Canned chipotle chilies can be drained, then prepared the same way. Once frozen, store in freezer bags or containers, then thaw what you need and use as directed. Freezer storage, 10 months to 1 year. Tomato paste. Very few recipes call for a whole can of tomato paste, and leftovers will only keep 5 to 7 days in the fridge. Freezing the extra means none of that tomatoey goodness goes to waste. Simply scoop 1 tablespoon mounds onto a parchment-lined plate or sheet pan and freeze until firm. Transfer portions to a bag or airtight container for easy additions to soups, sauces, and stews. Freezer storage, 3 to 6 months. And vegetable broth. In a whole food plant-based kitchen, vegetable broth gets used for so much more than soups and stews. Fill ice cube trays with homemade or leftover broth, then freeze for use in sauté and stir-fry recipes that call for a small amount of broth or water. Transfer the cubes to resealable bags or airtight containers so that it's easy to thaw only what you need for a given recipe. Freezer storage, 6 months. You just listened to Flavor Savers, How to Freeze Fresh Herbs, Broth, and More by Margaret Chappell at forksoverknives.com. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson. I do some of these on a regular basis, definitely the tomato paste. And when we have a bunch of basil in the garden and we make a bunch of pesto, got a great oil-free recipe that I love to use, then I put that in ice cube trays to freeze as well and then put it into a larger container. I've never tried the whole lemons and limes though, and I do know you can also freeze avocado. And that fresh ginger idea is so easy and it's so great. Regarding spinach, if you do ever have to buy plastic bags of spinach and won't be able to use it before it starts to go bad, you can throw the entire bag in the freezer and then you can use that bag for smoothies and it's perfectly fine. So please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.